Hey, Commanders fans. Today I have some news that will tug at the heartstrings of every fan of our team. A sensitive topic, but one we need to address head on. We're talking about our captain, our leader, our Terry McLaurin. Recent information indicates that his contract situation is causing concern, and this could open the door to a scenario no one here wants to see. Stick with me until the end, because the next few minutes could define the future of one of our most beloved players. And if you don't want to miss any Commanders details, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. According to Jordan Schultz, a journalist with good sources in the league, our all-pro wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, has made it clear he's unhappy with the lack of progress in negotiations for a new long-term contract. This news caught many people by surprise, especially after Terry, who initially participated in voluntary team workouts, suddenly stopped showing up. The big question now is whether he'll report to mandatory minicamp. This situation, with little communication and Terry entering the final year of his contract, naturally starts to generate buzz behind the scenes in the NFL. And, unfortunately, that buzz translates into trade rumors. It's painful just to think about, right? But as expert fans, we need to be prepared for all possibilities and understand what's happening and what might lie ahead for our team. Look, Terry McLaurin, at 29, is simply one of the most consistent receivers in the league, period. And what's most impressive is that he's achieved this despite all the problems our team has had at the quarterback position over the years. Since being drafted in 2019, he's had at least 1,000 receiving yards in every season except his rookie year. This shows his incredible talent and dedication. Throughout his 6-year career, Terry has accumulated impressive numbers: 6,379 receiving yards and 38 touchdowns. He's known for his precise routes, his ability to beat top opposing cornerbacks, and for consistently producing as a number one receiver, even without having an elite quarterback throwing to him most of the time. He's a guy who makes quarterbacks look better than they are. So with this combination of little talk about a new contract and Terry pushing for long-term security, a trade, however painful, might start to make sense from a business perspective for both the player and our team. It's a delicate situation where financial interests and the team's future planning clash with the desire to keep an idol in a key player. And I repeat, if our team decides to move forward and explore the possibility of a trade, there are a few teams in the league that could become serious contenders to acquire Terry McLaurin. It's important for us to keep an eye on these names, because they could be the destination of our captain if the worst-case scenario materializes. Let's analyze who these suitors are and why they would make sense. One name that appears on the list and makes sense is the Las Vegas Raiders. They don't have a clear number one receiver on the roster right now, and Terry would fill that gap immediately. Plus, the Raiders have cap space, which is crucial to giving McLaurin the long-term contract he's seeking. Imagine him playing alongside Jakobi Meyers and talented tight end Brock Bowers. That combination would give the Raiders a much more dynamic passing attack and a clear and reliable option for the quarterback, whoever that may be. For them, it would be a move that significantly elevates their offensive level. For us, it would be seeing one of our best players going to another conference, which in a way softens the blow of seeing him play against us in the future, even if it's in the NFC. Another team that makes a lot of sense is the Los Angeles Chargers. Although they drafted Ladd McConkey, a young and promising receiver, he excels more playing in the slot. Terry McLaurin would give Justin Herbert a strong-armed and talented quarterback, that classic X receiver who plays on the outside and wins individual matchups, balancing the team's passing attack. The Chargers need to give Herbert more reliable weapons after some key departures at the receiver position. Terry would be an immediate and high-volume target for him, someone who can make big plays and be a security blanket in crucial moments. It would be a very good technical fit for them, and for us, it would be another idol going to California, which has almost become a recent tradition. We can't rule out the New England Patriots from the list of potential interested parties. Even after signing Stefon Diggs in free agency, his situation is a bit uncertain, coming off an ACL injury and entering the final stages of his career. Terry McLaurin would immediately step in as the number one receiver for rookie Drake May, giving the young quarterback a reliable and experienced target to develop with. The Patriots are in a rebuilding phase and desperately need offensive talent, especially to support their new quarterback. Terry would fit perfectly into that leadership role and main target position. For us, seeing him go to New England would be strange, but we would understand the logic of the move for them, even if it hurts to see our captain in another uniform. Finally, the Pittsburgh Steelers appear as a slightly riskier bet, but one that also needs to be considered. They need a reliable number two receiver to play alongside DK Metcalf, especially after trading George Pickens. The Metcalf-McLaurin duo would be a nightmare for opposing defenses on paper, with two physical receivers capable of making explosive plays. However, the Steelers historically aren't a team that usually invests heavily in max contracts for two receivers at the same time. They already gave a big contract to Metcalf. This makes it somewhat unlikely that they can afford a new long-term deal for McLaurin and still maintain financial flexibility. Therefore, a trade to Pittsburgh, despite the technical fit, seems less likely from a financial point of view. Terry McLaurin's frustration and the apparent lack of progress in negotiations with our team may indeed generate more trade rumors in the coming weeks, especially as minicamp approaches. His consistent production, versatility, and leadership make him an extremely attractive target for any team needing help at the receiver position should Washington decide to put him on the market. Considering that Terry is entering the final year of his contract, and that any team acquiring him will likely need to give him an expensive contract extension, the cost of a trade for him wouldn't be exorbitant in terms of draft picks. The estimate is that a deal for McLaurin could cost around a third-round pick, which, for a player of his caliber, is considered fair value in the NFL market. For us, the fans, the hope is that our new management and coaching staff can find a way to resolve the situation and keep Terry McLaurin in Washington for many years. He's more than a player. He's a symbol of our team, a guy who represents the grit and dedication we want to see on the field. Losing Terry would be a hard blow, both on and off the field. This uncertainty hanging over our captain's future is something that makes us apprehensive, but it's the reality of the business in the NFL. We need to closely follow the next steps, especially whether or not he reports to mandatory minicamp. This decision could be a strong indicator of how things really stand between the player and the team at this crucial point in the offseason. The news just in might be one of the most exciting of this offseason. You know that player who arrives quietly without much fanfare but suddenly starts to attract attention and you think, do we have a gem here? Well, it seems we have a rookie on our defense who's doing exactly that and may, believe it or not, earn a starting spot in Week 1. Stick with me until the end to find out who this guy is and why the coaching staff is keeping an eye on him. And if you love the Commanders like I do, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so we can grow together. We're talking about our rookie cornerback, Trey Amos. He arrived via the draft with the mission to contribute, but we looked at the depth chart and saw names like Marshawn Lattimore, Quan Martin, Mike Sainristil, Noah Igbinoghene, and Jonathan Jones ahead of him. It seemed like it would be difficult for the rookie to find a spot right away, right? But Trey Amos apparently wasn't intimidated and is making a positive impact since arriving. This rise of Trey Amos isn't just optimistic fan talk. Matt Holder, who writes for Bleacher Report, a respected publication, released the news that he believes Amos has a great chance of winning a starting spot this offseason. This shows that the kid's talent and work are being noticed, not only within our training facility, but also by the specialized NFL media. Man, that would be awesome. Holder explains his reasoning, and it makes perfect sense when we think about the problems our defense had at cornerback last year. Remember that we even made a mid-season trade to bring in Marshawn Lattimore, precisely to try to solve this issue. This shows how much help we needed there on the perimeter, and it seems that need still exists. The defense still needs a starting cornerback to play on the outside, pairing with Lattimore. This would allow Mike Sainristil, who is an incredible talent, to play more on the inside in the slot position, where he seems to feel more comfortable and perform better. Finding this guy to play on the outside is crucial to balancing our secondary and putting each player in the ideal position. And you might think, but what about Jonathan Jones, who we brought in free agency? Well, Jonathan Jones was signed and could theoretically fill that outside cornerback role. However, Holder points out that Jonathan, who is already 31, is coming off a subpar season and, frankly, is entering the final stage of his career. He'll turn 32 in September, and we know how age can weigh on cornerbacks in the NFL. So, the ideal situation for our team in Washington would undoubtedly be for a younger player with long-term potential to take over that position. And that's where Trey Amos comes into play. It seems that the coaching staff is seeing in him the possibility of being that guy, someone who can grow and become a pillar of our defense for many years, definitively solving this need we have. And what does our team think about Trey Amos? General Manager Adam Peters, in recent statements, said that Amos is a complete cornerback, but made it clear that the Commanders see him primarily as a perimeter defender, that is, to play on the outside. This reinforces the idea that he's being molded for this specific role that we so much need to fill with quality and consistency. Zach Selby, who closely follows the team for the official Commanders website, also commented on Amos and highlighted his physicality. He mentioned that from the repetitions we've seen, especially against strong players like Deebo Samuel, Trey Amos's physique allows him to be very aggressive at the line of scrimmage, harassing bigger receivers. This is a very important quality for an outside cornerback. Of course, Zach Selby also cautioned that Trey Amos still has a few months until he's completely ready to be a regular and consistent defensive player in the NFL. It's an adaptation process. After all, he's a rookie. But the good news is that he started very well, showing potential and the right attitude in training and team activities so far. This promising start fuels the hope of seeing him on the field early. And the next important step for Trey Amos is the team's mandatory minicamp, which begins next Tuesday. This will be a crucial period for him to continue to show his worth, competing with more experienced players and solidifying the good impression he's made so far. It's his chance to prove to the coaching staff that he's not just a good prospect, but that he's ready for the challenge of being a starter in the NFL. If Trey Amos can maintain his pace, continue learning, and stand out in minicamp and then in training camp, the chance of him actually starting the season as a starter alongside Lattimore is very real. It would be an incredible surprise and a positive sign that our draft brought in a talent that can impact the team immediately. I'm excited to see how he does. Now, thinking about all this potential and the need we have at the position, the question that remains, and that I want to know your opinion on, fan, is considering the competition and the fact that he's a rookie, do you think Trey Amos has what it takes to really surpass the veterans and be the starting cornerback for the Washington Commanders in Week 1 of next season? Leave your comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any updates about our defense and our Commanders. Thanks a lot for watching.